Hello, BookTube. We're going to continue on with our library tour now that it's Monday morning. For some reason that passes understanding, I decided impromptu to do a library tour of the books here at Hyde Cottage, and we have been doing just one room, and it has taken us, I don't even know when I started. It was months ago. And we have reached, in the circuit of this room, we have reached this recessed hutch area in the wall. The bottom area of which, now that the third shelf broke under the weight of books and collapsed, I removed the fragments of that shelf, and now the bottom area is just huge, and I have, over time, filled it with books, and then emptied it, and then filled it again, and then emptied it again, and we're at the very worst of those books now, the ones that will be the hardest to do. But we're going to give it a try. I would like to get this done I would like to get the Darkest Depths of Mordor finished in 2 more videos. That would be great, because we have a lot more books to do. But we'll start here, and I'm just going to work my way around on the bottom here and hope that nothing collapses. So our first book is by Francis Casson Myers. This is ABC. It's a tall kids book of the Museum of Fine Arts here in Boston. There's M is for Mummy, N is for Nest, that takes you through owl, peacock. It takes you through a tiny sliver of the art collection of the museum as a way to familiarize yourself with letters. I kept it because I think it's a charming way to look at the collection. Let's see, these are wedged in. Okay, this next one is the photo arc from National Geographic, where the photographer, Joel Sartori, put a backdrop in a studio and walked animals in to take their photos. So these are not telephoto photos of animals in the wild. These are not, look at that. He walked them into the studio and filmed them against a backdrop. And it allows for a kind of intimate detail that is just amazing. It's a spellbinding book. There's one for, there was a later one for birds, the National Geographic, the photo arc for birds. And I'm hoping there's another one this year in time for Christmas. I'm hoping that there's one for, the obvious answers would be monkeys or dogs or cats even. And I would love that. That would be great. Sorry, I've had many sneezing fits this morning, so I'm a bit gloopy. Okay, this next one is, we're back to graphic novels. This is The Secret Avengers by Ed Brubaker with art by the great Mike Deodato. And this is Captain America, only he wasn't calling himself Captain America at the time that this series came out. And he recruits an odd batch of characters, that some of whom are Avengers, some of whom aren't, to go on clandestine missions. A lot of their powers aren't particularly clandestine. I didn't understand the rationale behind it, but I love the artwork. The artwork is just incredible. So I just have kept it because of that. I mean, this is Mike Deodato artwork, just fantastic. But it's sucky. Obviously, it's not with the other graphic novels. That's kind of odd. Okay, all right. This next one is technically a graphic novel. This is Frank Miller's 300, his oblong-shaped graphic novel about Thermopylae and about the Hot Gates and King Leonidas that was made into a terrific movie. Okay, this is by Mo Willems. This is the classic Knuffle Bunny, in which a little girl is devoted to her Knuffle Bunny, and her parents take their laundry and the child and the Knuffle Bunny to the laundromat. And you notice this is the signature gimmick of the book, is that it's actual New York locations photographed behind the cartoons, and of course Knuffle Bunny is put in the wash, just the same as all the rest of the clothes, and then there are antics, and then the family leaves, and this is one of my favorite panels in all of English literature. The family leaves, and when they're on their way home, little Trixie has an amazingly horrifying realization. Look at that picture. She realizes, of course, that Knuffle Bunny has been forgotten behind, and that is the dramatic spur of the book. I love Knuffle Bunny. I've gone through so many copies of it, giving it away to people. All right. This is Mark Wayne and Bryan Hitch. This is JLA Heaven's Ladder, a magnificent broad-scale Justice League adventure that was done in this larger format thing. It's since been reprinted, but it was first done in a larger format thing, and was it's really big. It's a really big scale Justice League adventure where, you know, there's a big bad and there's the classic iteration of the team plus some new members like Plastic Man or Steel who are added to the classic iteration of the team. And there's some wonderful moments, really, really good moments. Probably my favorite in the entire thing is when the various League members wonder about what heaven means to each one of them. What is heaven to Green Lantern? What is heaven to the Flash? And of course, I naturally wondered, you know, when the writer steps into that kind of territory, what's Mark Waid going to say for the big three? And there's a great scene where Wonder Woman describes what the afterlife is for Amazons. And it's speculated probably that the afterlife for Batman is where he gets to be with his parents again. And then there's the hardest one of all, which is Superman. And Mark Waid gets it exactly right. I wonder if I can find it quickly. Probably not. Let's see here. There's when you get to Superman. No, I'll never be able to find it. But the description is perfect. It's that for Superman, the idea of heaven is that no matter what comes next, it can wait. That is awesome. Let's see what is next here. Okay, this is new. This I think came out this year. Did you come out this year? Oh no, sorry, 2017. This is Winter Dance by Marion Dane Bauer and illustrated by Richard Jones. It's all about animals in winter. It's a kid's book, all about animals in winter. Is this next one also a kid's book? Oh, great, yes, of course. All right, this publisher brought out all of William Joyce, the great and very odd children's illustrator. This is Santa Claus. But they brought out a lot. I think they brought out all of his books. Okay, this is by Lee Hodgkinson. This is another kid's book. This is A Place to Read. And that's all it is. It's about every reader needs a perfect place to sit. Have you found yours? I'm not so big a fan of sitting. I tend to recline to do everything. Let's see. Okay, I mentioned Peter Spear before. Was a fantastic illustrator. He did kids' books. He did spot illustrations for all sorts of history volumes. And he did lots of other stuff too. And if I were a collector, if I were the type that collects things, I would collect him because he's just great. And this is his illustrated version of the Book of Jonah. Just terrific. He's just terrific. Okay, and here's his illustrated version of Noah's Ark. See that he alternates between frenetic pages like you get on the cover here, and pages where the simplicity is what pulls the point home. And I might point out again while we're on the subject, since I'm sure I'm going to have to deal with it sometime this week, at least once in writing a review sometime this week. While we're on the subject, I might as well point out again the absolutely self-evident, which is the story of Noah's Ark is a myth. It's a myth. It never happened. Nothing like it ever happened. Okay? All right? A 900-year-old man did not load his family and 2 of every kind of animal on Earth onto a wooden boat for a year while the whole world was submerged underwater. That never happened, nor did anything like it happen. I've lost count of how many times in a review of some crackpot self-published religious title I have had to point out calmly that this obvious myth never happened. Anyway, okay, this is another Peter Spear. Maybe I did collect him for a while. This is his great book on the Erie Canal. Long since gone. What I wouldn't give if some publisher, you got William Joyce here, what I wouldn't give if some publisher did an entire Peter Spear reprint. Wouldn't that be awesome? This one is just a thing about dreams. Just what are dreams? What are we daydreaming about? Okay, this is his adaptation of the old folk song, The Fox. The fox went out on a chilly night. This is just him illustrating that piece of folklore. There's the fox heading into town. Some of you will know this song, and if you don't know it in any other version, you really should know it in the Nickel Creek version. the bluegrass trio, Nickel Creek, that started out as little children. When they were still teenagers, they did a version of this song that is incredible. If I remember, I'll try and find it on YouTube. A version of it must exist. There was the studio version that was out on their album, and then they used to do, in their live versions, they would, Chris Thiele, the mandolin player for Nickel Creek, would often extemporize in the middle of the fox, and some of those I bet are on YouTube as well. Okay, there's another copy of the fox. The fox went out on a chilly night. Oh wow. Okay, all right. This is about immigration. This is about leaving, outward bound for America. These are all Peter Spears. Incredible. Oh no! All right. Well, this next one's great though. This is C.F. Payne's illustration of the poem Casey at the Bat. There is the mighty Casey, the pride of Mudville, and this is awesome. I have seen many illustrated versions of Casey at the Bat, but I've never seen any that even approaches how good this one is. And of course, I love there's Casey. Little does he know that his downfall is only 3 pitches away. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching in a haughty grandeur there. Close by, the sturdy batsman, the ball unheeded sped. "That ain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpire said. From benches black with people there went up a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone in the stand. And it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised a hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult. He bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the spheroid flew, but Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "Strike 2." "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands, and the echo answered, "Fraud!" But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain. They knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. Look, there he is. Ghoul! Steam coming out his ears. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go, and now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out. Look at that. Couldn't look more dismal. I gotta tell you, as someone who spends a lot of time reading books to kids, Casey at the Bat really works. It works a lot better than a lot of kids' books do. Oh, all right. Here's another copy of Knuffle Bunny. This one in paperback. Sorry, Casey at the Bat gets to me every time. This is written by Corinne Damus and pictures drawn by Noah Jones. This is Always in Trouble, a dog kids book. Got to be careful with dog kids books when you're reading them, especially to an audience of kids who aren't in a hospital, because you got to be careful giving kids books to kids just in general. Because if you give a kid a dog book and they don't have a dog and they're not allowed to have a dog, you're causing more trouble than you're solving. So you have to be careful with that. I usually opt not to do it. Oh, fantastic. All right, this is by Bill Martin and John Ambershalt, and this is illustrated by the great Ted Rand. Ted Rand is a fantastic kids book illustrator. And this is Barn Dance. Look at how he does Moonlight. He makes it golden, but it still works because of the shadows and the contrast that he does with the dark. But this is about a skinny kid who hears music coming from a barn, goes to investigate, and finds a raucous barn dance in progress, fiddled by the scarecrow and attended by all the animals. And he dances in. He joins in with the fun. See, he's dancing with a cow and whatnot. And it lasts until, look at that, until the dawn purples with the upcoming sun. And the owl says, morning's coming closer, magic time is over, and night'll soon be gone. The old dog stretched and blinked a sleepy eye, just a blink too late to see the skinny kid slip by. He tiptoed through the kitchen and tiptoed up the stairs, quiet as a feather on a breath of air. He hummed a little do-si-do and flopped himself in bed with the wonders of the barn dance dancing in his head. Awesome. Also good to read, especially since you can't tell from my inept reading, but it has a very, very foot-stomping rhythm, so that you get that going with a group of kids and you will be a hit. It will work just fine. Okay, this is Henry Morgan and George Booth. This is another book on dogs. Not exactly a kid's book. Oh, wow. Okay, this is Audrey Wood with drawings by Robert Florzak. This is Birdsong. This is from quite a while ago. This is a bit of an older kid's book, and it's just gloriously drawn. Look at that. Just glorious. Just incredible. And every page is like that. This takes you through the various birds of the country. Just wonderful. Not successful to read to kids, but just wonderful. Okay, Where the Wild Things Are, in a beaten-up paperback, so I'm assuming that's my own copy. Another Ted Rand book. This is Paul Revere's Ride, the famous Longfellow poem, just drawn by Ted Rand. This is a Little Golden Book of the Little Cottontail. I did a Little Golden Book. There was a book on the legacy of the Little Golden Books, and it was reprinted, and I begged and pleaded, and I got a chance to review it for the Christian Science Monitor. I had a great time doing that review. I got a lot of really good response to it, and I think the next day I was at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston and saw this, figured it was fate, so I grabbed it. I didn't have any other Little Golden Books. Okay, there's another copy of Barn Dance. Talk about a classic children's book. This is Make Way for Ducklings, Boston's own classic children's book. Okay, this is the Brothers Hildebrandt. This is the Brothers Hildebrandt drawing Robin Hood. And as is usually the case with the Brothers Hildebrandt, the main character is a super hottie. And this is just the typical story of Robin Hood. And in every panel where he appears, he is a super hottie. Let's see, what have we got next here? There's a lot of kids' books. Okay, this is another William Joyce thing. This is my favorite. This is Dinosaur Bob, who and his adventures with the family Lazardo. Just utterly charming. Okay, another William Joyce. This is Bentley and Egg. These were all classics. It's just the publisher decided to reprint them. I applaud them for that. I wish that more classic children's book people did. Okay, this is A Day with Wilbur Robinson, also William Joyce. This is The Adventures of a Hyperactively Imaginative Little Boy. Another copy of Where the Wild Things Are. This one's in slightly better condition. What have we got here? Oh, okay. This next one is technically a kid's book, but you'd never read it to a kid. These are the kinds of kids' books that are made for adults. This is by Hans Wilhelm, and it's I Will Always Love You. And it's about the life of a dog. The life of a dog from when you get an earnest little puppy all the way to the end. Not anything you'd really want to read to kids, but very touching for an adult, especially one who's been through that cycle as many times as I have. Okay, this is a comic book. How are we doing for time? We're all right. We'll go on a little bit more here. This is by Len Wein, and it's got a variety of artists. This is Legacies, which was this is a hardcover volume of Len Wein. He was a classic comic book writer, and this is his account of the history of the DC universe, just from the earliest times, from World War II, all the way to the present, encompassing all of the major events in DC continuity, like the death of Superman or the breaking of Batman or anything like that. Really, really, really good stuff, and a good choice here, much along the lines of Marvel's over at Marvel Comics, to tell the story largely through the viewpoint of an ordinary person, in this case, two cops, who start out as young boys during World War II, then they go to the academy as the superheroes are returning, then they become cops on the beat while the superheroes are flourishing and all these events are happening. It reminds you that whenever you look at those comic books, there are always cops in the background. So there would be people who, and again, like with Marvel's over at Marvel Comics, it stresses the fact that the rise and reign of the superheroes is the length of a lifetime. It hasn't been going on forever, which I think is really interesting. Oh, God. Okay, there's been a collapse. That's probably a key to stop. Okay, this is a Marvel reprint volume of The Thing and Liberty Legion. It's 4 issues from 30, 40 years ago where the Thing of the Fantastic Four goes back into the past. He meets the Invaders. He meets Captain America and the Prince Namor the Submariner and the original Human Torch back in World War II. He meets the Liberty Legion, a short-lived World War II superhero team. Some of the moments in there are really good. So damn, this hardcover. Oh God, what is this? Okay, these must have been cheap. These must have been cheap remainders. This is Avengers. This is the Coming of the Beast. Hank McCoy, one of the original members of the X-Men, started out as just a gorilla-looking person. His arms and legs were the same length, and they were both immensely strong. He could balance on a toe or a finger. He could lift great weights, jump great heights, and whatnot. And then later on, he conducted a scientific experiment on himself that turned him into blue and fuzzy. Still had the same powers, but it turned him blue and fuzzy. And that blue and fuzzy incarnation of the Beast joined the Avengers. And there was a 4-issue sort of filler thing drawn by the World War II veteran George Tuska. George Tuska never really had a fan base. He was just somebody who would never miss a deadline. You could count on him for good, solid draft work. And he did a 4-issue series that introduced the Beast to the world of the Avengers, and then gave way to other artists, including George Perez, who is very much someone who has a fan favorite base. And I have those 4 issues. I've read them a lot. I find there are lots of great moments in them. And when it was collected in hardcover, I just grabbed it. Oh God. Okay. Well, there's been a bit of a collapse, so my plan to get this done in 2 videos is going to fail. So what I'm going to do here is just cut this short now, and we'll do it in 3 videos. So or this week. We'll do it this week. We'll finish this week. So that's enough for now. I was worried that this was going to happen with this bottom selection of books. They're all cantilevered against each other. So you can't just go through. There's been a huge collapse here. So I'm gonna clean that up, and that'll give us the reason to go on tomorrow. So I will wrap this up, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.